Hey everybody, Justin Weber, Amps and Sound. So I've shown on Instagram a little bit about one of my winter projects. Lots of times we stumble onto things that have been uh, poorly restored or have never been restored, and I normally pass on it. I've stopped restoring audio equipment because even well restored audio equipment tends to not be as reliable as new equipment. There's just not enough you can do to make it 100% new, reliable. And so there's a very few exceptions that I would restore some audio equipment, one of which was a tube tester I did for myself, which was an ICO 667 that was like an NOS never built before in a box, and we built it from scratch. That was super cool, and that's like my primary tube tester at this point. And I have restored a ham radio that was near and dear to me and something super special to me as well. But this kind of fell in my lap. So this was a Hickok 533A, and a friend of mine was passing by a old like a Radio Shack that was going out of business, old electronics store that was going out of business, and they were getting rid of all of their old equipment and all of their old tubes. He got all of the old tubes and gave me most of the old equipment. And this was one piece that was really in terrible, terrible shape, and I just didn't want to throw it away. And I knew that if we didn't do something to restore it, it was going to be thrown away. It was kind of well on the way to be thrown away. So this was like a 1950s tube tester that would be on top of a counter. So it was part of a larger display, and the metal in the back of it had been cut out and was really pretty flimsy and was flapping around because it was meant to be on a counter. It was part of a larger display system, unfortunately. And it had been repainted or like rolled on in this like 60s blue that was pretty ugly. The meter wasn't working. The chrome was super pitted. The actual logo in the back here was warped because they had an incandescent bulb behind it, and it had overheated and had just warped the logo. So the Hickok 533A is not a great tube tester. It's a pretty good tube tester, but what we have here is a wonderful time capsule, and I didn't want to see it get thrown away, so I took it upon myself and my friends. We each did our own parts, and we got it up and running, and we fully restored it. So my friend Dave Harris, Fastlane Audio, did all the metal work, and he cut out lots and lots and lots of patch panels out of this to try to get the metal work as straight as we could. We took off the metal clips here, polished them up, and put it back. He actually did the silk screening, the vinyl logos for us. I took off the bezel, or I took off the meter, took the meter apart. We got a new plexiglass cover, got this flattened out, back flattened out, so we could use the original again, thank goodness. Got this repowder coated, fully assembled. The meter appears to be damaged internally, so it's reading unreliably. But if it wasn't damaged, you'd have a little switch here like this, which would go from the internal meter to the external meter. They mimic each other. The actual tester, we've fully gone through and restored all the mechanics of the tester. The tester is a little limited in the sense that you can't calibrate it with just a fancy pot. High precision pots, they actually were using high precision resistors, and to recalibrate it you need to replace it with some high precision resistors. So you have to measure it, do the calculations, and then replace it with high precision resistors, or a pot that would allow you to have that same capacity. We chose to leave it more or less stock, so it does measure accurately. It's not the greatest tube tester, but it measures, with a 20% deviation, which is about what one would expect from that time period. But some cool things that we did, we got all the metalwork fixed. We put some vinyl logos on it, which was super cool. We sealed up all the rear of it so that it is now won't be collecting dust. The whole thing was caked in dust, unfortunately. IEC socket in the rear, put some billet caster wheels on the front of it, or underneath it. We also put a ballast weight on the bottom of it so it won't tip over. I think of this as sort of my R2D2 of tube testers. We tried really hard to get it super clean, but because this is like a textured metal, couldn't get it really, really, really clean without maybe using a steamer. But she works. She works accurately, which is a really nice thing. I still think that my ICO 667 is a better tester, but for all intensive purposes, we now have a piece of functional art that both works and is beautiful, and I really appreciated about that. And so it's part of my winter project. I do get asked a lot though about tube testers. I wanted to talk about that. The ICO 667s can be had for like less than $200 and from on eBay, and you can get them up and running for about $20 to $30 more in parts, and then can calibrate them. It's probably the best value to be had in tube testers right now, and because you want a transductance tester anyway. And you know, if you're buying tubes and you have spent more than $1,000 on tubes and you don't own a tube tester, then you are a person of extreme faith, and that's an unwise proposition. You should be buying a tube tester. The very best tube tester to buy at this point, in my opinion, is an Amplitrex. They are the holy grail of tube testers. They're computer controlled, but if you're going for vintage at 1/10 the cost, the ICO 667 is a great choice. Anyway, but this is my little piece of artwork that hangs out in my office, and happy to have it. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.